Hello and welcome. This is class number 15 of Decoding PSIR through answer writing, a place where we are trying to simplify PSIR for you by taking one question at a time of previous year papers, trying to discuss that topic and then try to write an answer to that. In order to help you even further in your PSIR preparation, I have now launched a comprehensive course of PSIR optional. This is for all of those who have taken PSIR as an optional subject for the UPSC examination or who are looking to take this subject. This will be a live course which will go in about 4.5 months long. It starts on the 24th of June. Apart from live classes, you'll also get access to recorded classes. So if you have not been able to attend the live ones, you can always attend the recorded ones. You will be getting notes from my side in the PDF form for all the topics. I've compiled these notes from multiple books so that you don't need to read any books. About that, if you need any other information, you can always email or call here. All this information is given in this pamphlet. The classes will be live on my app. I'm giving you the link of the Android app in the description of the video. Download the app from there and you can purchase the course from there also. Having said that, let's see what are we discussing today. Today we are discussing a question from 2023 paper. It's a long question of 15 marks, 200 words is the word limit. Eurocentrism is both the target and the motive force of post-colonial political theory. Discuss. Now this is one of the difficult questions because, as I said earlier, usually theory questions do get repeated, but Eurocentrism is a new topic that had come up. Anyone, if they tell you that, oh, I knew about Eurocentrism, I have read about that in PSIR preparation, would be lying to you. No one in their PSIR preparation would have read about Eurocentrism because it is not really a part of the syllabus. Post-colonial political theory is a part of the syllabus. And we have discussed this earlier as well. Post-colonial political theory means the countries that were once under colonial rule, such as India itself. Even today, they are in some way indirectly ruled or pressurized by the colonial powers. So the Western powers in Europe, US, all these countries still try to play the smaller countries as their colonies, still try to take advantage of their resources, still try to take advantage of their human resource, etc. That is a post-colonial theory. That is how the post-colonial world is. Now, add to that Eurocentrism. Eurocentrism is very interesting. Let's first understand the idea. What is Eurocentrism? The name itself is enough. Euro means Europe, centrism. Basically, Eurocentrism is a theory which means Europe wants to project itself as the center of the world. Not in geographic terms, but in terms of the fact that Europe has always been trying to project that whatever they do is always the best. Their culture is the best. Their legacy is the best. Their language is the best. The way that they do things is the best. That is how they try to justify the years and years of colonialism that they had on other countries in Africa and in Asia. As you know, most countries in Africa and Asia were ruled by European powers. How they justify that is by this theory of Eurocentrism. You might have heard about this, that a lot of these countries which were ruled by colonial powers, these countries discarded their own culture, discarded their own languages, discarded their own way of life and accepted the European way of life. Because Europe presented it as they being the most superior clan, them being the more superior race and they knowing everything. That is the idea of Eurocentrism. Now, look at this photo. This photo tells you in short what Eurocentrism is. If you look at this photo, look at Europe here. And now compare this with today's modern maps. Means, historically, when the Europeans used to make their maps, they used to ensure that their continent looks very big. None of these countries, as you see here, are as big as you actually see them today. But they were highlighted in such a manner. One. Second, look very interestingly, everything else is black. Africa black, Asia black, Australia black, everything else is black. The only countries that are in bright color are the European countries. Why? This is again an indication that Europe had this mindset that any new discovery, any ray of light, any new ray of hope, any new invention will only happen in Europe and it cannot happen anywhere else in the world. That was the idea and the philosophy of Eurocentrism. Now, Eurocentrism as a word is not that old. Eurocentrism as a word was first given in 1970s. By whom? Very famous author called Samir Amin. He wrote a book called Eurocentrism in 1970s, and that is when the word came into prominence. Before that, there was no word such as Eurocentrism that existed. This word came into being in 1970s only, with Samir Amin talking about this. It was in the news a couple of years back. The Nobel Prize has been given to a Eurocentric wide enterprise. Now, let this be a riddle to you. You find out who is this person, who are they referring to. But this was a headline, and that is when the word Eurocentric became famous, and that is why the UPSC also picked it up and asked that in the theory paper. So let's define Eurocentrism in simple plain words. As I told you, Eurocentrism basically refers to this theory that Europe or West in general is the center of the world and superior to all other cultures. That is how they justify their rule. Remember the theory of white man's burden. Rudyard Kipling gave this theory of white man's burden. That is, the European countries, when they are ruling over Asian, African countries, they are not doing this because they want to. They are doing this because the nature has put this burden on them. That see, you are so superior, you have to teach others how to live their life. This became the concept of the white man's burden. This is how the white man's burden came into picture. So this is again a part of this Eurocentrism. That is, whatever Europe thinks about history is absolutely true. Whatever other thing of their history is false. Whatever Europeans say is good, whatever others say is wrong. As I said, this came up in 1970s, but became famous in 1990s as the word. How is this related to post-colonial theory? Because again, in post-colonial theory, it refers to the fact that the countries that were once under colonial rule are still indirectly under that rule only. And how is this being justified? This is being justified again because of Eurocentrism. Because of this theory of Eurocentrism, that is West superiority, the narrative that Western progress can actually uplift the entire world, that Western technology is essential. That is why it has become so important. Now, just for comparison, if you look at entire Europe today, look at entire Europe's population. The population of entire Europe is not even 90 crore. So look at that, it's actually about, let's say, 75% of India's population. But even then, the amount of power that they hold, the amount of prestige that they have, the place that they have, let's say in the UN Security Council, both France, UK, both of these are members. Russia also considers half European country. So in that manner, the Western domination of the world. Look at IMF. Every head of the IMF till today has been a European citizen. So this concept that without their help, there cannot be any development in other parts of the world, that is the idea of Eurocentrism. So that is what we needed to know. And now we have to translate that into the answer. So the question again was, Eurocentrism is both the target and the motive force. So target basically means it has been blamed, and it the motive force also, and it leads to also of post-colonial kind of domination that we are seeing in other parts of the world. As I said, for example, you see a lot of developed countries today sending their discarded electronic products to third world countries just for disposal. That leads to a lot of electronic pollution, but again, that is something that is an indication or example of this post-colonialism or post-colonial domination. This is how we'll start. In the intro, we'll write about how this word emerged in 1970 by Egyptian Marxist economist called Samir Amin. European norms or European values being superior to others, their culture being superior to others, that is how Eurocentrism is defined. It has been a driving force behind post-colonial political activism, and it seeks to redress the legacies of colonialism. So basically, this is how Europe defends its actions. When asked why did you rule over other countries, when asked why did you violate human rights, their argument is that we are so superior that we are just teaching others how to live, and that is what we have done in the past. Here you will write more about how Eurocentrism is actually something that is being called out today. Social science has emerged in response to European problems. Remember, our foreign minister very famously gave a quote just a few weeks back, where he famously said in a press conference that Europe has to come out of this mindset that Europe's problems are the world problems, but the world's problems are not Europe's problems. He famously said that, became a very famous quote. That indicates nothing but Eurocentrism only. After 1945, there was decolonization of Asia and Africa. But again, even then, even after that, most countries in the world, especially the poor developing countries, have been dominated by Europe in one way or the other, directly or indirectly. Even today, the norms of how the developing countries will work are set in Europe and West. For example, look at the WTO. In the WTO, there are always question marks raised by the Western countries over the food subsidy programs run by poor countries. Not just India, many poor countries run their food subsidy programs that Western countries don't like, even though these are internal programs for their own domestic use. That again indicates the privilege that Europe thinks that it has. We'll conclude it by writing how we must overcome Eurocentric heritage, and in order to ensure that post-colonial theory actually leads to the post-colonial world becoming much more become much more stronger, become much more independent, the Eurocentric view of the world has to be shaken, and we have to ensure that we have a much more inclusive global society. That is how you can write an answer. Again, it's a challenging question because these are one of those topics that are not repeated. They have been asked for the first time, but that is why we are running this series, so that you can learn these new things and you are in a better position to write the answers. Once again reminding you, if you need any other information about the comprehensive PSIR optional course, either mail me here or I've given you the number on the pamphlet itself. I'll be looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Jai Hind.